Doug and PA back with another live. So this is an impromptu live here. I saw this article and I had to say something about it. I had to. There is an article in Psychology Today that says that you should hire women over men, and there's science to prove it. It's in Psychology Today, and guys, the American Psychological Association, Psychology Today, all these psychological magazines are misandrist, feminist garbage. Okay, you can't believe anything coming out of them. They do studies, but you know how they say studies can be slanted based upon who's paying for them. Psychology Today is a perfect example of that. So I'm gonna bring this article up. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. It shows you support me and what I'm doing over here. And let me find this article so we can get into it, shall we? Um, it, I've encountered other things from Psychology Today, and it's all the same. It's all the same. So, and the sad part about this is written by a man, Gleb Tispersky, Ph.D., in the intentional insights section. It says research that said why you should hire women over men according to science. Research shows that women are much better workers than they appear on paper. So before we get into this article, let's talk about the basics of the differences between men and women at work. Okay. Women take more time off. Women leave the workforce more. There's a quote pay gap because women take jobs based upon people and men take jobs based upon things. Women know that their careers are optional. Men, we have to perform. And after this article, I'm going to show you what happens when you hire more women and women stay in the workforce long enough to get to the C suite. Because a lot of women that go to the C suite end up walking away from their jobs. So I'm going to cover that article too. But we know all the differences between men and women in the workplace. Men work more hours. Men don't care about flexible workplaces. Men don't care about working from home. Men want to make money. Men don't care about being happy at work. Look, that's one of the worst parts about. I'm not saying that women shouldn't be part of the workplace, but women have introduced this myth of liking or loving your job. Who says you get to love your job? Another one, mistaking a job for a career. The majority of women make less than $65,000 a year in the United States. Average woman makes $32,000 a year, and these women will call their freaking job a career. So let's get into this. Why you should hire women over men according to the science. Research shows that women are better workers than they appear on paper. MGTOW by Logic. Good to see you, my friend. He said, so they're encouraging companies to break federal, state, and hiring laws. Yes, they are. And then he gives a link to the EEOC guidelines. Good job with that. McTabalog says, I once worked in an office where I was the one man out of 18 employees. I've been there before, my friend. I've been there before. He says, every time there's a bad thing that happened, panic abounded. Yep, the whole office stops when there's nothing but women. And as a man, you have to do all the heavy lifting. You have to walk the women out to their cars. You have to do all this misandrous stuff. Anyway, it says, care about your bottom line that you should probably hire women rather than men. So they just start off with the misandry and breaking the EEOC guidelines. This is true regardless of whether you factor in diversity considerations. So we're not so once again, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it doesn't include men. It doesn't. And especially white men. I'm black, and I can tell you, white guys, you have an uphill battle nowadays. I can tell you that right now. It says, Separately from the beneficial financial, social, and cultural impact of having a diverse workforce, hiring women over men makes dollars and cents. You might be surprised to hear someone who is a man saying that. Yes, we are surprised, Gleb. The simp freaking pandering to women is just out of control, man. And women aren't the worst things in society. It's these simp male feminists who are the worst. Because feminism could not exist without men propping it up. One of the best things that Top G said was women can't defend this ideology. Men throughout history have put their lives on the line to defend their country, their ideologies, their honor, all that stuff. But women can't physically defend anything. So it's simps like Gleb here who are propping this stuff up for all these women. Says you might be surprised to hear someone who is a man say that. Well, don't be. I always go with research-based findings from cognitive neuroscience and behavioral economics. And the research is clear. There's no doubt that women, just because of their sex, are held back from career advancement compared to men. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Even simps deserve the benefit of the doubt. Chill vibes. Good to see you, my friend. I'm going over an article in Psychology Today that says why you should hire women over men according to science, and it's written by a man. The symptom is real. Are you ready for this? Let's go. For instance, a study that examined managers working in 20 Fortune 500 companies found that men experience faster career progress and receive better salaries than women. Now, why would that be? That would be because men work longer hours. You know, men are more logic based. Men want to get paid. That's why. Men will negotiate better salaries, push for that promotion. Because that's despite women doing all the right things needed for advancement, having an education similar to men, working in the same industries, not moving in and out of the workforce, and so on. Another study evaluated 69 female and 69 male executives in similar positions in their career. In comparison to men, women reported having to work harder to overcome a variety of barriers, such as being excluded from informal networks and getting less mentoring than men. Now, this article is from 2020. And why would that be, guys, in the chat? Women reported experiencing discrimination much more frequently than men. And in fact, I'm sorry. Women reported having to work harder to overcome a variety of barriers, such as being excluded from informal networks and getting less mentoring than men. Why is that? What happened in 2015? The M2 movement happened. And a lot of guys said, I am not getting accused by a woman. It's not happening. No. It's a barrier women created themselves. And on my channel, I recommend, guys, don't deal with women at work. Don't do it. And if you have to, make sure another person's in the room. Keep your office door open. Go to your cubicle. Do your job. Don't even go to the lunchroom now. Eat in your cubicle. Eat in your car. Go back to your cubicle. Put your headphones in. Do your job. Go home. No happy hours. No lunch dates. No mentoring sessions. None of it. Those days are over. A third study looked at 1,000 MBA graduates from the same university to evaluate their career progress and salaries. Women reported experiencing discrimination much more frequently than men, and in fact, when controlling for work experience, women earn less than men. Once again, we know why that is. I can go on, but you get the point. The glass ceiling is real. Women face gender-based discrimination that prevents them from advancing as quickly as men, despite similar career experience, skills, and education. I'm gonna use every time I hear the term glass ceiling, I'm gonna bring up one of my favorite terms. If you've never heard of it, you can borrow it. It's called the glass basement. What do you think? Okay, if women have the glass ceiling limiting the career opportunities, what do you think the glass basement is? The glass basement is all everything at the bottom of society is men. the homeless, the most people in jail, the most people deleting themselves, the most people with violent crime, the most people getting raped are men in prison. That is the glass basement. Women always want to talk about the glass ceiling, but never want to talk about the glass basement. Um, when I give keynotes or training, I usually share such findings. What usually happens then is that male audience members frequently respond by coming up with explanations that do not involve any possibility of discrimination because what he's talking about has been debunked 1,000 times, especially with the pay gap. As an example, they speak out about women taking time off to care for their families, which is true. I respond by noting that studies I cite that control for work experience, meaning time worked and the kind of positions held, still find that women earn less than men and make slower career progress. Once again, women make more time off, they work less hours. They choose fields where they make less. They get degrees in BS fields. We know this. After highlighting this discrimination, I go into a broader discussion of implicit bias. That term refers to unconscious and unwarranted associations and assumptions we make due to our gut reactions, intuitions, and instincts around people we perceive to belong or not belong to our group. Some of these are unduly positive. They result in a dangerous judgment error called the halo effect, where if we like one characteristic of an individual, usually because it's something we share with that person, we make a top positive evaluation of other aspects of the individual. And that's not a bad thing. That's why a lot of military personnel like hiring other military personnel. People that have a college degree like hire other people for with a college degree. A lot of blue collar guys like hiring other blue collar guys. You kind of you it's a thing where you try to find things in common and how you connect with people, even in hiring. Um, Other assumptions are excessively negative. They result in a mental blind spot called the Horns effect. It's the opposite of the halo effect. If we don't like one aspect of another person, our intuition is to downgrade all of their other characteristics. You know, you guys want to know the one thing uh, on a first impression that people never forget? This is kind of off topic, but I always remember this. If you meet someone and you smell bad, they will never forget that about you, ever. You can have something hanging out of your nose. You can have something on your face. You can have a stain on your shirt. But if you smell bad, people will never forget that about you. Anyway, the halo effect and Horns effect are two of over 100 systemic patterns of mistakes that we make due to how our brains are wired. Research in cognitive neuroscience, blah blah blah. The first step to addressing these errors is to evaluate their consequences. Regarding gender differences in the workplace, it's clear that men unconsciously prefer to mentor, network with, promote, and pay more to other males. Now, listen to this, guys. Listen to this. To be fair, it's important to acknowledge that women also do the same with other women. However, given that men dominate the positions of power in almost all organizations, the result of this natural and intuitive tendency in our society is for men to get ahead at the expense of equally or even better qualified women. You see that? So both men and women hire their own demographic, but because men are ahead, it's not okay. Guys, this is crazy. This is crazy. Uh-uh. At least he acknowledged it. In my speeches, I always highlight there's no shame of or blame in falling into these dangerous judgment errors if we're unaware of them. After all, we're only human. This no shame, no blame approach decreases the intuitive defensiveness on the part of males and helps them hear the essence of the message. All this fluff. You can tell this is an article pandering to women. You can tell. What should you do if you're in a position to influence hiring and promotion? Recognize that, objectively speaking, women at the same career position, work experience, and salary levels as men need to work harder to get to where they are to overcome the gender discrimination stemming from the halo and horns effects. Thus, female candidates are likely to be substantially better workers than they appear on paper in comparison to their male counterparts. This guy is crazy. And especially if you're a man, you need to give women more credit than you feel they're due to overcome Horn's effects while decreasing your evaluation of males who do the halo effect. This guy, man. So you're supposed to automatically give women more credit, assume that their road is harder than yours because they're a woman. And let me tell you why you shouldn't do that. Because, like I said at the beginning, the male masculine burden of performance is is essential. If men don't succeed, we're homeless. You want to give a leg up to a woman who knows that her success is optional. And odds are by the time she's 35, she's going to want to check out of her industry and work part time and try to find a man to save her. No, guys, don't do it. We need more masculine, successful, intelligent men in the workforce. You see all the articles about working age, no, working prime age men checked out of the workforce. It's rough out here being a guy, and we need to support each other because we are all we have. Support other men at work. Because consequently, and without any reference to diversity and inclusion initiatives, simply for the sake of your bottom line, you should always give preference to women, you guys. Oh, we're gonna make it through, guys. We're gonna make it through, I promise. Seems counterintuitive, perhaps a little unfair, especially if you're a male. Well, I'm a man, and I can tell you that I prefer to hire women over men and recommend other males to do the same. You're simply doing what's in the best interest of the organization. In fact, if you work in a publicly traded company, you are obliged to serve the best interests of the shareholders. That means you need to go out of your way to promote, hire, mentor, and include in networks those who are most likely to serve the best interests of your company. These people are women. This stands apart from any diversity issues. Of course, it does. Because once again, men are excluded from DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Men, you are not included unless you are a member of the alphabet community, of the LGBTHDTV. Doing so will create the biggest profit. Research supports this inclusion. A study of companies using the 1996 to 1997 National Organization Survey found that greater gender diversity is associated with more customers, greater sales revenue, and higher profits. Another study showed that having women occupy at least 30% of a company's board of directors position correlates with increased profit. Gender balanced business teams had better sales and profits compared to the typical male dominated teams in a third study. The smart money is on hiring women over men, at least for those who care about making profit. What do we think about this? Psychology today, I said it before, is a misandrist, effeminist propaganda piece. A lot of these psychology articles are, no, magazines are. And guys like this Gleb guy, come on, man. Come on. You serious? You guys, we're all we have. This is coming from women. This is coming from the simps. This is coming from the media. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to get to this other article because here's the thing: a lot of women will stick it out to get to the C-suite. You know, they'll hire women, make them CEOs, CEOs, and what happens? They end up quitting to spend time with their families, t- to take time apart. Um, Let me see. Up, 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 up. Give me 1 second. Oh, where are you? Oh, with the woman, base breadwinner. If you're thinking about boycotting, okay, 1 second. Okay, okay, here we go. It's a huge concern. Senior level women are calling it quits after decades climbing the career ladder. This is fairly recent, February 20th of 2023. This is going to talk about women. They're it's just like, I don't know if you know this stat, guys, but 52% of women in science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM fields, they end up leaving their field or going to part-time after a child is born. 52%. Japan put a cap on female medical school um slots because so many female physicians were quitting after their children were born. Of course, it didn't last long because the government cracked down on that. But yeah, that's what happened. So let's see why all these senior level women are calling it quits after decades of climbing the career ladder. This is what happens when you hire women for the long haul. It says some of the world's most powerful women are calling it quits. Last week, YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki, also one of Google's earliest employees, announced she's leaving the company to start a new chapter focused on my family, health, and personal projects I'm passionate about. I wonder if she has kids. I wonder if that means she's starting her IVF journey or something like that. I have to do some research on this woman. Oh no. The announcement came days after Meta confirmed Chief Business Officer Marnie Levine is stepping down after 13 years with the company in order to recharge and prioritize some quality time with the family. Guys, I told you. Told you. Before beginning her next professional chapter. She's the third female C suite leader to leave Meta in recent years following Chief Operating Officer Sheryl Sandberg's exit in 2022 and Global Ad Chief Carolyn Everson's in 2021. Guys, I guarantee you, if these were men, they would still be there. Women know in the back of their heads that their success is optional and they will choose and they reserve the right to change their minds when they see fit. And another thing on my channel, guys, put yourself if you are in a relationship or married to a woman, make sure that you can pay 100% of the bills because you may be with a woman who's 50-50, but she can change her mind at any second. And then look at you like, why can't you pay everything? Why do I have to keep going to this awful job? A woman will be a CEO of YouTube, making probably hundreds of millions of dollars a year and walk back to start a new chapter focused on her family. And in global politics, Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon resigned this month after more than 8 years in the role, saying no one should stay in a political role for too long, while New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said in January that she had no more in the tank to lead the country and that she stepped down and not seek re-election. Yes, she had a whole bunch of scandal around her, though. I should do a story about her. These are just a few high-profile examples of a trend that shows women leaders are leaving their organizations at the highest rate ever, widening the quitting gap between women and men in senior roles, according to recent data from Linen.org and McKinsey Company. Now, pop quiz, guys. Why do these organizations call something a gap? The pay gap, the success gap. It's to put an emotional is to get rid of all the logic behind why there's a difference between men and something and purely tug on the emotional part. There shouldn't be a gap. It's just a gap. But you have to start asking questions about the gap. But they don't want you doing that, do they? To give some context, for every woman stepping into a director level leadership role, two are choosing to leave, guys. Two are choosing to leave, says Alexis Krikovich, McKinsey's senior partner and an author of the Joint Lean and McKinsey Women in the Workplace report. The pattern has the potential to unwind decades of progress toward gender equity and increase female leadership in the workplace, she tells the CNBC Make It. It's a huge concern and worth focusing on. So, but of course, they're going to come at men and say men need to change how we are to keep these women in the workforce. No. And it's crazy because it's only companies in the West that are concerned with this. Chinese companies, Russian countries, companies, Eastern European companies, African countries are not worrying about this stuff. Even after you've climbed the career ladder, women in senior leadership face more headwinds than men do, Krikovich says, ranging from everyday microaggressions like being questioned on their expertise to carrying a greater responsibility and diversity and inclusion initiatives. Guys, let's look at this one more time. Even after they climb the career ladder, women in senior leadership positions face more headwinds than men do, ranging from everyday microaggressions to carrying a greater responsibility in diversity and inclusion initiatives. So here's the thing. I can't stand that term microaggressions. It's being overused, particularly by women. Okay. Women think that any way to communicate that doesn't um any way to emote or communicate that isn't like a woman is a microaggression, okay? And then I've done previous stories about women always take on the extra burden of doing these diversity and inclusion initiatives that nobody asked for. I've had people at jobs, women, come in and then want to do presentations about diversity and how we can, and no one asks them to do it. They go to management and say, "I want to do this stuff." Why? No one cares, and it doesn't contribute to the organization's bottom line. AJ is in the house. Good to see you, my friend. He says, "You're better off hiring dudes with Down syndrome than one of these mon." Oh, that's a good one. Say, they are doing more in their roles than men are typically doing across a whole gamut of things that support their office culture and community. That's another thing that women have brought into the workforce is this need to have a community. Men, we just want to make money and go home. Okay. We don't care about, all this togetherness. I want to make money and then go home. Says they do twice as much sponsorship support, spend more time on diversity work, and spend more time in mentoring and sponsoring colleagues within the organization. That sounds like a them problem. Okay. I don't give women credit for this stuff because nobody's asking for it except maybe other women. But even now, men are the ones doing most of the work that affects the bottom line profit margin of the job. It's still that way to this day. So it stands to reason that after years or decades at the top, they're going to lose steam. 43% of women leaders reported feeling burned out compared to 31% of men, according to Lean In and McKinsey data. In some ways, women can send a powerful message when they acknowledge they're stepping back to prioritize themselves, says Valerie Workman, Chief Legal Officer at Handshake, a job search platform for college students and recent grads. Phil Vibe says, I would tell them I don't need your friendship. Get lost. 100%. You know what's another sad thing to Chill Vibe? You know that before, I think it was before 2008 or 2007, 60% of people, 60% of married couples met at work. 60%. And now 60% of people that are online. There used to be a positive work culture where you could potentially meet your spouse at work. But women just ruined that, didn't they? They'd rather go online and deal with that crap than find a person at work. Says, referring to Wajiki's decision to step down at Google, Workman says, if you were the head of YouTube, How is it a fail that you decided to go and do something else when you've made it as far as you can possibly go? It's because the organization invested in you. You know the culture, you know how it works, and you're just gonna leave? That's why. It's not about you. It's about the organization. It's about you, your vision. Men wanna make an impact in the world. And I'm telling you, when men this is my saying from my channel. In fact, I should put it in my description on my channel. When men win, everyone wins. When women win for themselves. And guys, don't get in a relationship with a woman. Don't marry a woman who doesn't want you to win. Modern women want men to set aside everything they're doing to help them win selfishly for themselves. That's one of the biggest problems with modern women, and it's becoming pervasive in the modern workplace. They don't do these DEI extra initiatives for you. They do it for themselves to be visible. Women are inherently selfish. It's a survival mechanism. And I'm not even saying it's a bad thing, but you got to make sure that you are looking out for you. And according to the previous article, before this one, you got to look out for your other male colleagues too. They're meeting their goals and being successful, and some are choosing to leave before they get burned out. Workman adds, "It's a phenomenal example for young women. That's a success story." Yeah. So just quit. If times get tough, quit. Focus on you. That's a great example for young women. It's also possible that women, especially ones of power and influence, could lead to start a new organization that's more inclusive and supportive of women in the workplace. Krikovich says women increasingly want to work for companies that prioritize career advancement, flexibility, that prioritize career advancement, flexibility, employee well-being, and more, and are quitting when their needs aren't being met, according to Lean In and McKinsey report. And a lot of these companies that they're starting are not in essential fields of the workforce. So when there's a recession or something bad happens, what companies go under first? Still, the departure of a female senior leader can have negative consequences on the junior employees who remain, Krikovich says. The C suite loses another diverse perspective. Work around diversity, inclusion, mentorship, and sponsorship can stall, and young women lose out on seeing a senior level female role model within their organization. The problem means that there are too few women in high levels of leadership. Lots of men leave their positions, but we analyze and scrutinize um, when women leaders do in a different way. If we had a lot more women prime ministers and CEOs and leaders at the very top, when we had one retire or exit, it wouldn't feel like such a loss. Everything's men's fault, guys. Everything, according to these women. Everything. You're supposed to hire more women, but then when they get to management, two quit for every one man. I'm telling you this, guys. I'm a 42-year-old man. Okay. Women in their 30s, they give their best years to a job that can care less about them. I'm going to save the world. I'm going to do all this stuff. They're going to hit 35 and they're going to want out. And they're going to be looking for you to save them. And they're probably going to have a kid or two. They're probably going to have a bunch of debt. And they're still going to be talking about how they're the prize and how you need to do all this stuff to jump through hoops. No, you guys. No. Okay, I want to click on this one last article here. Let's check into this because I think that there's a continuation of this. Let me stop sharing here. So this article is called "It's a Disastrous Situation. Women leaders or companies are leaving companies at their highest rate ever." Let's look into this one because this is kind of going along with the same one I was talking about. Screen. Mm. Okay. It's a disastrous situation. Women leaders are leaving companies at the highest rate ever. For women in management, there's never been a better time to quit. Guys, only women can say this stuff. Only women can say this stuff, guys. Women leaders are leaving their companies at the highest rate ever, and the age gap between women and men in senior roles quitting their jobs is the largest it's ever been, according to new data from Lean In Org and McKinsey and Company, which started tracking these numbers back in 2015. In its Women in the Workplace report, which surveyed 22,000 women and 18,000 men, Lean In and McKinsey Co. found that it's increasingly important to women that they work for companies that prioritize career advancement, flexibility, employee well-being, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they're leaving their companies in unprecedented numbers when those needs aren't met. You know what that means? It's all about her, not the company. And that's fine. But the men are going to stay there and make money and keep the statistics skewed where the men are going to make more than the women. This is why the pay gap still exists right here. Because a lot of these companies that champion diversity, flexibility, all this stuff are not in industries that are essential to society. They're just not. A plumbing company isn't going to meet this criteria. It's just not. You know, big time Fortune 100, Fortune 50 companies are not about, they're about making money first and foremost. So the needs of these women are diametrically opposed to the goal of most stable, profitable companies. Lean and McKinsey and Co. call this mass exodus the the great breakup. So we had the Great Resignation, and now we have the Great Breakup. And you guys remember the Great Resignation? The Great Resignation. 80% of people that quit their jobs in the Great Resignation were what? Women. So now you have the majority of of people in this Great Breakup are women. And how did we get to what I'm talking about right now? The first article I talked about, the guy said that you should hire the science says that you should hire women over men if you want your company to make money. But once again, this is showing women, they'll get in there, and when the going starts getting tough, i.e., the entry level, middle, or upper management, they're going to quit. They're going to break up with your company. Companies also have Companies are also at a massive risk of losing young women for the same reasons driving female leaders to quit, as these issues are even more important to women under 30. Let's be clear. Women aren't saying they don't want to work. Lorena Yee, a senior partner at McKinsey and Co. tells CNBC. They're breaking up with companies because they're confident they will get an opportunity to advance somewhere else, which is something we haven't seen before. It really speaks to the fact that loyalty has its limits. There we go, guys. I did a story earlier, I think a week or two ago, that said that 64% of women think that they could do their jobs better than their boss. They didn't say why. They just said that they could do it. Women just want the opportunity to do a job, not earning it. Men, we're perfectly fine with starting from the bottom and doing a 20-year stint at a job. But this is literally saying that women don't want to do that anymore. Uh, AJ says, "Do you remember when they said that the Great Resignation would bankrupt America? How'd that work out?" Exactly, because most of those women quit jobs that no one cares about. They're not essential to society. Our economy is still built on the backs of men. Says women don't want to return to business as usual. 2.5 years into the cough, new research from the National Women's Law Center shows that women have recouped all of their job losses since February of 2020. Yet as more women return to the workforce, LeanIn.org's co-founder and CEO Rachel Thomas says that their patience is wearing thin for companies pushing to return to business as usual, requiring more time in office and letting conversations about employment health and diversity, equity, and inclusion. They can't stop using this phrase. Mental health, diversity, equity, and inclusion fall to the wayside after promising to prioritize these issues in 2020. Working women in the US are among the most stressed employees globally, according to new research from Gallup. And they continue to undertake more responsibilities at home and at work. They're experiencing burnout and exhaustion at higher rates than men. Yeah, but you should hire women over men. Isn't that what Gleb said in the first story that I went over? Telling you, men, we work, we give our lives, our souls, our backs to raise families, to achieve. And women fought for equality to be able to do this, and they want out. You don't get to feminism. Be a career woman is a one-way trip, and too many women don't understand that until the train starts going down the track. It says the shift to driving more female bosses to put in their 2 weeks notice, as Thomas sees it, is that these women have seen what's possible and companies really commit to something, whether it's offering more flexible work arrangements or doubling down on equitable hiring practices. They want to they don't want to take their foot off the gas, she adds. Thomas continues, they want to work for organizations that remain committed to the things they value and are driving positive change. I think I have it saved, but there was a story. I have to do a video on it. Literally saying that going back into the office is misogynist because men are willing to do it and women aren't, and it's creating an environment where it's separating the sexes and perpetuating misogyny because men are more willing to go back into the work than women. That's a real thing, guys. A real thing. Women are still struggling to climb the corporate ladder. More than half, 50% of women under 30 say career advancement has become more important to them over the past 2 years compared to 31% of women leaders. Gen Z and millennials value professional development opportunities more than other generations do, numerous studies have shown. And this consistently ranks as a top priority for younger generations when choosing a new employer. This is especially true for women under 30, he adds, who understands that having a seat at the table matters and are more willing to ask for it. While women aspire to senior management positions as much as their male colleagues, the report found they are far more likely to experience, here's that word again, microaggressions that undermine their authority and discourage their ability to advance within a company. How can you make it to the C-suite and still let microaggressions affect you? I don't understand it. Shouldn't you be past that? Haven't you taken enough, you know, leadership courses? Wait, in fact, shouldn't diversity, equity, and inclusion be teaching these women that that men and women have different ways to communicate? That people from different cultures, people of different genders communicate differently? You're in the C-suite of a major organization and you're worried about microaggressions. Are you serious? Um, Despite modest gains in representation and leadership, only 1 in 4 C-suite leaders is a woman, the report notes. Far fewer women than men are being promoted to managerial roles. For every 100 men who are promoted from an entry level to a manager position, only 87 women and 82 women of color are promoted. What's more, women leaders are twice as likely as men leaders to be mistaken for someone more junior, and 37% of women leaders have had a coworker receive credit for their idea compared to 27% of men leaders. But you don't see men leaders writing articles about it. Sometimes you get got. You just keep moving forward. It's a disastrous situation You're not promoting enough women into the leadership ranks, and now you have more women leaving leadership roles, Thomas says. In a world where women remain dramatically underrepresented in senior leadership, those two problems together create a pretty awful 1-2 punch for companies trying to hold on to women leaders. You guys ready for this? The extra work women do is going unnoticed. How many times are they going to say diversity and inclusion? How many times? Take a guess. Compared with men in similar positions, women managers spend more time on work that promotes employees' well-being and fosters diversity. I told you, equity and inclusion that falls out of their formal job responsibilities, including helping team members manage their workloads and recruiting employees from underrepresented groups. And here's the thing about it: you think who are these women helping? Because women can't stand each other at work. There's something called the queen bee syndrome, where a lot of women who get to the C-suite intentionally make other women's lives hell. I think there's a National Institute of Bullying or something showed that 80% of women experience bullying from other women at work, like 80%. So who are these women helping? What's this work going towards? Tell me, anyone. Although these contributions boost retention and employee satisfaction, Lean In and McKinsey and Co. found that women are rarely acknowledged for this work and their performance reviews another trend pushing women to leave their jobs. What women need to learn how to start saying no. They want you to start some diversity initiative. You say no, or you talk to your boss and say, "I'll start this diversity initiative, but you need to pay me for it." Because companies will say that employees companies will say that employee well-being and DEI efforts are top business priorities, but all the important extra work that women managers are doing in these areas is going unnoticed, Thomas says. How companies can make work a better place for women. Building an equitable workplace where women can thrive starts with fixing the broken rung. All these terms, you guys, all these buzzwords and terms. What is a broken rung? We're going to find out. Yee says making sure women and men are considered for promotions at the same rate and evaluating the process for promotions to ensure it's equitable. But here's the thing: if you're a CEO and you're looking for a COO or a CFO, and you know that women leaders quit at twice the rate men do, you have to take that into consideration, especially if you've been part of a company for 20, 30 years. You want another person in the C-suite who's willing to make that kind of commitment. You have to take that into consideration. Um, really can women have the option to work remotely, at least part-time, as women of color and women with disabilities experience fewer microaggressions. Ugh, higher levels of microaggressions and psychological safety, the report found. You guys, I should start uh, 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 um, I should start a document and put all these buzzwords on it. We should log them all. Finally, Thomas encourages companies to include metrics related to people management and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion in their performance reviews, and provide more career development and formal sponsorship programs specifically for women. So now they need to mandate sponsorship programs specifically for women. Guys, we have to look out for ourselves at work. Okay. Try to give other guys at work a leg up because we are all we got. Women are highly ambitious, she says, and the companies that get these things right will get the very best out of having so many women at the top of their organization. Better collaboration, more diverse problem solving, the list goes on, and driving their companies into the future. So, according to Dr. Gleb from the first article, you should hire women over men because the science says so. Now, Now, they'll end up leaving, but you should hire them anyway. Hire them, guys. I can't with this. I just can't. I saw this article. I had to do a report on it, and yeah, I just all these buzzwords. Women can't stand each other. Women know that their performance is optional. Th they choose to be career women until they don't want to anymore, and then, fortunately, they have the out of blaming it all on men. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section if you've watched this. I just the workplace, it's gonna be an interesting place for the next 10, 15 years. I think that we are gonna see, we have a generation of boss women who are gonna, what, 20, 30, 50% of women are gonna be single and childless. We're gonna see pushback where you're gonna have women who are career women who are gonna start to telling younger women, "Don't be like me. Don't end up alone with cats and wine." Okay? So, anyway, I had to cover this article. Chill vibes, AJ, Miktab, Biologic, everyone in the chat. I really appreciate you being here. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you on the next one.